Hello friends, welcome. My name is Shay and we're going to talk about the best books that I read in the year of 2024. A lot of the year of 2024 was awful and can go burn in a fire, but some of the best things that happened this year were these reads and my trips to visit my friends. I took a trip to Kentucky and Tennessee earlier in January of this year, and I got to spend time with Izzy and May, and I met Katie Robert, and it was absolutely fantastic. And then in October, I went to Texas, again with Izzy and May, but I got to hang with some other friends, Morgan from Lovely Reading and Megan from Yath Vader, and we had the best time. It was so fun. Both trips were amazing. And yes, loved those trips. They're both on the channel. I'll leave links either in the corner or down below. Let's talk about the reads. And I'm going to start with my 5 stars and then we'll end with my 6 stars. There's been one true standout this year, so that'll be the last one I talk about. But all of these reads were truly amazing and I had a great time with all of them. If I vlogged and talked about them in more depth anywhere, I will leave that linked either in the corner or down below. So do know that most of these are in vlogs around the channel. So with that said, let's dive in. Now for me, 2024 was a very romance heavy year. In these tops, they are all romances. I don't have any fantasies or historical fictions that took my attention this year. I do think that's going to change next year, but either way, let's dive in. So first up, I have A Soul to Touch by Opal Rain. This is book 3 in the Duskwalker Bride series. Book 2 took me a while to get through, but I read book 3 actually while I was in Texas. And this one was very good for me. We have a Duskwalker that we'd met previously in the series. And then we had a heroine who was a demon slayer. So she was strong, scrappy. I really liked that about her compared to our 2 previous heroines who just kind of had accepted their fate. So having one that was strong and was always kind of curious about monsters and things, that made for a really interesting dynamic within the series. And I really like where it's headed. So expect to see more Duskwalker Brides in the upcoming year. The next one, the slot's going to go officially to I Married a Mothman, but just the Prime Mating Agency series. This is a series I love and adore. They're always 5 stars for me. Regine Abel does a fantastic job with them. I really enjoy them. I feel like each one gets better and better. And I really wish more people would give the series a try. The first book is the weakest by far. So if you just want to skip the first one and jump into the second one, I don't think you need a ton of context from the first book to understand. So I think you could just skip that one if you're not interested in that concept. Or, you know, some of the other things that feel kind of iffy about that first one don't carry on through the series. So I would highly recommend checking out the series if you like monster romances, because they're all different types of monsters. The next one here, actually, this is the only historical fiction on the list, but it does lean into the romance, and that's Lovely War by Julie Berry. I do have a whole vlog about my reading experience with this book. I will leave that linked in the corner for you. Ashlynn over at Ashlynn Calee picked this book out for me, and she's fantastic. She's a very sweet human. I miss her. We need to go on a coffee shop date again and catch up because it's just been too long since we've seen each other. But she recommended this book to me. It's absolutely fantastic. It is based between World War I and World War II, where we're following 2 different couples from the perspective of the Greek gods who intervened and played into their story. And we're primarily following Persephone. No, not Persephone. Aphrodite. Aphrodite's perspective. I don't know why I said Persephone. But it's Aphrodite, and she's defending what she did for these couples. So absolutely fantastic. I really loved it. The next one I have here is Under the Oak Tree, the novelization. I really enjoyed this first installment. This is a very spicy book, so if spice isn't your thing, this is not going to be the book for you. But I really enjoyed this one. I did finish it off in a vlog I did recently. I'll leave that linked for you. Essentially, this is a arranged marriage where immediately after they were married, he went off to war and she didn't know what to think or what to do about the situation. So she stays in her father's house. Her father's an absolutely toxic human. But anyways, 3 years later, he comes back from war and comes to fetch her. And it's about them getting to know one another now that he's back. And it's really interesting. I'm really looking forward to more. And then the last 5-star, probably my top 5-star for this bracket, was Only for the Weak by, I believe it's Natasha Bishop. This is a black love romance where we have a heroine who gives a lot to her sister. She's the bridesmaid / wedding planner for her sister's wedding to her ex-boyfriend. And her having a romance with the best man in the wedding, but he is absolutely a gem. I really loved him as a hero. He literally rented this woman a yacht so that she could relax and just read and do whatever she wanted away from the wedding party because he could sense she was stressed. Like, get yourself a man like this. Like, it was so good. I really enjoyed it. It actually recently got traditionally published, so you can pick it up at places like Barnes & Noble now, which is absolutely fantastic. Again, high on the spice meter, so if spice isn't your thing, then skip that one. But honestly, everything you get in that book is absolutely fantastic, and I really loved it. All right, now we're getting into the 6 stars for the year. First up, I'm going to talk about my most recent one, which was Dark Hope. This is the next installment in the Carpathian series by Christine Feehan. It technically comes out January 7th, but I absolutely loved and adored this book. It really helped kind of kick me out of a reading slump that I was in and just made my heart so happy to read it. I really loved this one because the hero truly gave the heroine time to come around to the situation of them being together, because this is a fated mates situation where he knew for a long time, but he gave her options and choices. And if she chose to not be with him, he would have dealt with that. And I really love that she was a strong heroine. She had a lot of things she wanted to protect. And he was like, okay, let me help you. And he didn't like overstep. He still let her lead things, and it just was really so good. I really love it. I don't think it's a great entry point to the series. I've talked about entry points to the series before, but if you need a dedicated video about my journey with the Carpathian series, I'd be happy to do it. Just let me know down in the comments. The next one we have here is Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. Yes, I was a little bit behind. I did read this in January. It was a lot of people's favorites of last year. I absolutely loved it. We're dealing with 2 older people. So we have an older hero and an older heroine, where her son is just heading off to college and he is 50. They meet playing video games together, where he thinks she's his like mother's age and she thinks he is like in his 20s with the way he talks. So it's really sweet. I really loved it. It's all about being your best self, even as you're older, and learning to put up barriers with people who need to have barriers put up. This woman literally like jumps over a table at people who are being awful to him. And I love it. I love it so much. Again, I have a video where I talk very thoroughly about this book, so I'll leave that linked for you. The next one here is Midnight Ruin by Katie Robert. This is the first of 2 releases in the Dark Olympus series from this year. I really enjoyed both, but Midnight Ruin snuck it out just a little bit for me. This is a throuple situation, so again, very steamy, not going to be for everybody. But this is a book that played out very nicely. I do talk about it more in my Tennessee vlog, so I'll leave that linked for you. This next one here is At First Bite by Olivia Dade. This is a romance between a heroine who's a big curvy woman and the brother of her ex-fiance. Now, the ex-fiance is a bit younger, very flighty, very non-committal, but was trying to commit to her. And the brother pointed out, it's like, this isn't what you really want. Why are you doing this? But he secretly had liked her that whole time. So he wasn't necessarily trying to intentionally break them up, but he did. And so it's very much this enemies situation where she's like, you are arch enemy. You broke us up. Like, why should I even listen to you? But there is this beautiful, beautiful moment where she is deep in her depression tank and he just takes care of her. And that truly won me over to him and his cause. I do talk about this more thoroughly in a video, so I will leave that linked. There's going to be lots of links to other videos because I talk very thoroughly about these books. And rather than repeating myself here, I feel like I can just lead you to that one. The next one I have here is In a Jam by Kate Canterbury. Now, when it comes to heroes, I probably went the most feral for this one this year because Noah is a king and I love him. The way he uses my wife, like, it's just so good. Essentially, this is like childhood friends to marriage of convenience to lovers kind of situation. And I really, really love how it all played out because our heroine was kind of lost. She lost the only person who she thought cared about her. So she moves back to her grandmother's house because she inherited it. And she has plans for it, but she's thinking she's just going to sell it off and go back to being a teacher in a town with her friends. She has the best friend group, by the way, like top tier friend group here. But Noah is across the way and has this niece who swears like a sailor. So Noah has his own family dramas. He's basically caring for and raising the niece. And they end up in a marriage of convenience. And it's brilliant. I love it so freaking much. And talk about two people who encourage and empower one another within a relationship. Like, dang, it's so good. So, so good. Highly recommend. Again, pretty high on the steam level. Noah gives off daddy energy, so if that's not your vibe, then it's not going to work for you. It's not normally my vibe. Noah is an exception for me, so. Next up here, we have The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. So in this book, we are dealing with the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey aspects of a particular apartment that was owned by her great aunt, I believe. And she's staying in the apartment for a summer after this grandmother's passed away. Or this great aunt has passed away. And all of a sudden, this man starts showing up in the apartment to share it with her. And what she finds out later is this is actually someone she's trying to do business with now. And he knows who she is. She doesn't know who he is initially. And it's about them figuring out how to be together in the present timeline while she's learning about him in the previous timeline, but her present. And he already knows all these things about her. And so initially he's really gruff to her because he like isn't sure they're supposed to be together, but then they work through things and it's really beautiful. I really enjoyed the way the wibbly wobbly timey wimey things worked out here. So I really had a great time with that one. And then last, but definitely and certainly not least, was the rest of the story by Talbauer. This is a male-male romance. It's a hockey romance where I was thoroughly invested in both sides of this relationship, in them just getting whatever makes them happy. Basically, this guy is recruited to come into this team because the team dynamic is toxic. And as soon as the older hero of our two heroes comes in, he immediately starts shutting down the toxicity here. And then the younger of the two heroes, like, appreciates that. And they start forming a friendship. It definitely starts as a friendship. They both want it to be more, but they're afraid of taking that step. So when they do finally take that step, it's beautiful. And I really love it. There is so much here. I will link the video where I read this, because I talk about it much more eloquently there, and you get my live reactions to everything. You see me cry, all that kind of stuff that is the equivalent of a best book of the year. So if I had to name a best book of the year for me, it will be The Rest of the Story by Talbauer. And this was a recommendation from Steph over at Novelty Corner. So if you're not following Steph, definitely do. She's linked down below. Anybody I talked about creator-wise in this video is linked down below. I do always try to link the creators I talk about. So That's a glimpse at the best books of 2024 for me. Let me know down in the comments what the best book of 2024 was for you, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.